Hello, and welcome to 5 for Friday for this Friday, June 23rd, 2023. Thanks for joining me to learn about 5 stories that are signals of change that you should be alert to as a small business owner. I bet you didn't even know you could use a futurist on your team alerting you to these changes, but believe me, we live in a world full of change, and I know you don't have the time to keep up, so let me do it for you. All right, ready to get started with this week's topics? Let's get going. We'll start with topic number 1, AI in healthcare. 2 interesting stories here. First, it turns out that in a little experiment with both human doctors and ChatGPT trying to help out patients online, the patients preferred ChatGPT. Not only were its answers more useful, but apparently it was also more empathetic. Next, AI is being put to use in hospitals to help overworked nurses by handling medication verification and patient monitoring. But what happens if the algorithm detects the problem, or says nothing is wrong, and the nurse disagrees? Who's to blame if something goes wrong? No easy answers there yet. And with our aging population, you can expect to see more AI and more money going toward healthcare in the coming years. All right, moving on to story number 2, trouble in China. Many people, both in and out of China, expected China's economy to take off in a post-COVID world. But the economy there is still struggling, making U.S. investors hesitant to invest there. Meanwhile, small business owners in China are really struggling, laying off staff and worried about their future. And China's Gen Zers are very much under or unemployed and not happy about it. Adding to that, it's hotter than it's been in 60 years in Beijing this month, which doesn't help anyone's mood. I hope if you rely on any suppliers or support from Chinese companies, you're looking into some backup alternatives. And with that, let's move on to our story number 3, bad weather and more climate change. China is not the only country struggling with record heat. Last summer was the hottest on record for Europe, which is the fastest warming continent in the world right now. Related to that, Switzerland has set aside funds to curb their greenhouse emissions as citizens are watching the Swiss glaciers melting away at an alarming rate. The developing world is struggling as well, but without the funds to address the issue, so climate economists, that's a thing, climate economists, are encouraging the world to make investments there to address climate change. There's more details in the newsletter, but the key message here for you is that you should be thinking about how severe weather could impact your business or your customers or suppliers. Can you find ways to limit your risk of mishaps due to heat, drought, fires, hurricanes, and more? Or can you become part of the solution in some way? Give that some thought. And moving on to story number 4, changes in car sales. We're seeing more people buying EVs these days, not only because they're electric, but also because they have cool new technology and features that people really like. And EV manufacturers are continuing to work to add more features, with Toyota claiming that, number 1, it is working on technology for EVs to reach a range of 1,000 kilometers or over 600 miles. And, more interestingly to me, number 2, it's working on a realistic feeling fake manual transmission for EV drivers, which would serve absolutely no purpose other than fun. Whee! In other car news, Mercedes-Benz is the 4th company to get a permit in California to be able to sell or lease self-driving cars, otherwise known as a conditional automated driving system that allows for hands-off, eyes-off driving on certain highways. Car dealers in general are likely to see a shift that was started by Tesla and now adopted by EV car maker Rivian. Car shoppers are tired of the price-haggling, traditional deal-making car purchase process and are ready to make it feel more like Amazon Prime. And back to high-tech cars. Apparently, Volkswagen went a bit too far with its push to abandon buttons and move to all screens. Customers weren't happy, and the newer VWs will have more buttons and controls that are easy to figure out and don't require reading a huge owner's manual. Lesson learned. One more lesson to learn from this story. Just because a model for sales or product design has been working for a long time, like car dealerships, doesn't mean it will continue in the future. Think about how that might apply in your industry and with your customers. Now let's move on to our final story, story number 5, your fake self. Thanks to AI, celebrities can make more money than ever by licensing an AI version of themselves to marketers. Side note, Which came first, the real-world AI licensing or the Black Mirror episode? You know what I'm talking about if you've watched the latest season. And it's not just celebrities. A radio DJ in Oregon covers the early morning shift, and then her AI version covers the midday shift. I doubt she gets paid in full for both shifts, though. And apparently we are equal opportunity shoppers, as we are able to be influenced by not just human influencers or even AI versions of real humans, but also completely virtual influencers posting on social media. Cool? Or sign of a pending robot apocalypse? What do you think? 2 bonus stories in the newsletter about crazy tech bros. More detail, of course, in the newsletter. Bonus story number 1, Apple, the company, is trying hard to keep anyone from using Apple, the word or image, in any branding, including an attempt to stop the card game Apples to Apples, which I think the card game won since it's not called Oranges to Oranges, and a fruit co-op in Switzerland that uses an apple in its logo, because they grow and sell the fruit version, not the computer version. A little over the top, if you ask me. And speaking of over the top, bonus story number 2. Did you hear that Twitter/Tesla tech bro Elon Musk challenged Meta/Facebook tech bro Mark Zuckerberg to a cage fight? For real. What is going on with toxic masculinity these days? Eesh, calm down, dudes. And with that, let's take a deep, calming breath. And thank you for joining me for this week's 5 for Friday. If you want to get all the links, all the resources, and my full take on these topics, then be sure to check out my subscription newsletter that gives you everything in the video and more. Thanks for joining me today, and happy 5 for Friday.